What's going on, everybody? We are back. Episode number 220 of the Club and Sub podcast. This week, we're breaking down UFC Vegas 106. We have got Gilbert Burns taking on Michael Morales. I don't know why we keep getting main events like this, but here we are, and we have fights, so at least there's that. As usual, guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe. It'll help us out. We'd appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, before we do anything, we should talk about last night. It was, I don't even know if I want to call it a good card for me on the bets I posted. Like, I think I went up, I'm trying to find it. I think I went up 0.03 units or 0.3 units, I should say, 0.3. But it was pretty frustrating. I had Bexat at minus 135 to win 1.5 units. And I mean, that cashed. And I mean, it was more, I mean, look, if I played out pretty quickly, but it was more or less along the lines of what I thought it was going to be, which is, Bexat's got all of the moment and finish equity in the fight. Otherwise, it would probably play pretty close. Obviously, Bexat knocked him out. So, that kind of proved to be the case. I had Marc-Andre Barriault to win 2 units at minus 137. Yeah, I mean, my basic thesis was Bruno's washed, and he's shown that he's been washed for years now. That turned out to be the case. Honestly, being there in person, it was pretty scary. Like, he did not get
that was
up
crazy,
dude.
Yeah,
for a good 10 minutes. It's still kind of weird to me because they said he fractured his skull, but like, that's not like your spinal column, right? Like, you shouldn't be. I wouldn't think you'd be, unable to move, from a fractured skull. You know what I mean?
I mean, it could affect your movement like that, and you never know.
Also, am I looking like I'm in slow motion when I'm moving on your screen?
A little bit.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, and then I also had Ion Cutelaba to win 2 units at minus 108. I mean, look, I don't want to like sit here and be like, oh, it was a great bet, but like, I thought he won the fight.
Yeah.
I thought it was a close fight, but like, the funny thing is, I thought being there live, I felt like there was a case for Bukauskas in rounds 1 and 3. I didn't see any case for him winning round 2, and I thought the case for 3 was pretty narrow. And to see he lost
the 30-27 was nuts.
He got outlanded 104 to 40 in total strikes in the last 2 rounds. And like, someone said to me, "Oh, moments versus minutes," but I'm like, what moments did he really have? Like, he landed a couple hard right hands, but it's not like he wobbled him or hurt him. He mostly just got outworked. And like, again, I'm not saying like bet of the year or anything like that. I'm not even saying robbery. It was a close fight, but I feel like if you're getting outworked to that degree, it's kind of hard to score the fight in that direction if you're not like dropping the guy or cutting them up pretty badly,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a bummer. And then I had a unit on Jessica Andrade plus 260. I thought it might be a decent time to sell Jasmine. I thought, maybe some of the narratives around Andrade and her not really being here to fight anymore were maybe being, exaggerated. But that was a bad bet. She just got run right through. Jasmine took her down off the rip and just beat the fucking piss out of her. So, there is no.
I didn't think it was going to be that quick. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I did have a bunch of DGen stuff with Chad, which was
nice.
Yeah, we had a bunch of DGen bets. Some went well, some went bad. Aldo blew up a bunch of like small parlays that I made. Unfortunately,
that was a fucking insane fight too, dude.
Dude, oh god, it was. I could not. Like when he did it, I'm like, yes, he won. That's it. When he dropped him in round 3, and then he just totally fucking collapsed. So that was good. I am going to bounce out of here and see if I can bounce back in. You give your breakdown for the night, and if I'm not back in before it, start us off with the first fight.
I was gonna say real quick. Is it on your end?
I think so, because I'm seeing myself kind of freezing a bit. So
okay.
Yeah. So just take us through your night.
Yep, we'll do. So so I had 2 plays on the night. So the first, I had a money line play with Charlie Radke at plus 200. Had a unit there. So again, looked like he competed a little bit early, but then obviously gets knocked out in the second there. No shame in that. Honestly, small dog shot at plus 200, and then had a parlay to win a unit and a half with Jasmine money line at minus 300, and then Natalia Silva at minus 225. Both look like huge favorites, I thought, in hindsight. So happy to cash that. Finish up plus 0.5 units on the night. So kind of wish I went a little heavier on the parlay, but it is what it is. But it's an interesting card we get into tonight because it's a definitely but we will see.
All right. All right. So, first fight of the night, Lags. I'll let you kick this one off. We have got Luana Pinheiro taking on Tisha Pennington. Tisha Pennington, she might be the biggest favorite she has ever been in a fight in her career here. Currently minus 450. The comeback on Pinheiro plus 350. What do you think here?
So, I mean, she is a huge favorite here, but I kind of think it is justified. Obviously seasoned vet in Tisha, much better striker here, huge cardio advantage here. In terms of the wrestling, I think she can keep the fight standing or even offensively wrestle herself. Like, I think she can stay safe. So, to me, a big favorite's totally justified, I think.
Did you finish your breakdown, Legs?
Yes. Did you hear any of that?
Sorry. Yeah, no, because I was changing how I'm getting my internet right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I like a side per se. I will say, no, Bill, we're fixing the technical difficulties of stream. So far, it's been my issues, but we should be good the rest of the way here. I made an audible here midway. I don't know. I mean, she's 35 years old. She lost a split to Tabitha Ricci a couple fights ago. Obviously, she had a kid recently. I mean, she still seems to be taking it seriously. She trains hard. She's obviously a very talented striker. She's very fast. I'd say she's the better fighter than Luana Pinheiro. But I do look at the fight, and I'm like, man, the obvious issues with Pinheiro is she's a gas bag, and, when things start to go for her, she tends to wilt pretty hard. But the flip side of that is she does hit pretty hard for a female. She is a decent offensive grappler, like a lot of good judo trips, some decent ground and pound. I think Tisha's going to win, but like when you're talking about 85% or north of that for a woman with like basically no finishing ability, with no real grappling ability, who's 35, had a kid recently, taking on a bigger hitter who's also got grappling upside, who's much younger. It's kind of like, how can that be right? Do I want to do I want to bet Luana Pinheiro? Not really. Will I? I might, honestly. It just seems like the macro here seems to be fairly favorable for Luana, I know she's a huge dog. I don't expect her to win, but would you be terribly shocked if like there's a couple close rounds where she hits a couple big judo throws or like stuns Tisha and pulls a decision?
So I could see the stunning part, but like the judo throw takedowns, I don't see a ton of them coming late, really. Like maybe she has
late, I don't
early.
think so.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe she has success early, like lands a takedown or two, but like no, that's it, really. Like maybe she wins a round. But
fair enough. I'm not super passionate on it. Pepe asking, am I still hungover from hanging with Chad for the night? We did get after it. I think I outlasted Chad, though, to be honest with you. The arena got real hot, and Chad was suffering about halfway through the Jack and Bilal fight. It was a fun time, though.
Was he not prepared apparel-wise, wearing too many jackets?
No, he had a Lululemon a workout shirt on. He should have been in great shape for it. Dude, it was real hot. We had great seats, though. We were like the 10th row, kind of just overlooking the octagon. So it was awesome. Obviously, it was a lot of fun. Would have been more fun had Aldo not collapsed down the stretch there, but you know.
So speaking on last events, real quick before we go into more of these fights, were there any crazy crowd reactions, any boost, any decisions?
Yeah, the fucking Canadians. The fucking Canadians boo every time there's a grappling exchange, except when Jasmine takes down Jessica Andrade. Then they're all going crazy, Well, it's like any other grappling exchange there, they just boo it,
Yeah. Listen, Jasmine's the best. I mean,
I love Jazz, dude. It's funny because someone tweeted shade at me last night. It was like, how could you fade Jasmine? It's like, dude, I bet her 4 fights in a row. Like, I love Jasmine, you know. I took a chance, tried to sell high. It didn't pay off, you know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But moving on, we got Hyun-Sung Park. He's taking on Carlos Hernandez. Dude, it is like weird how this is like Carlos Hernandez's, what is it, his third Road to UFC fighter in a row he's fighting here? It's
Crazy.
something like that. Yeah, they just keep feeding him the guys off Road to UFC. Current price, minus 170 for Park. The comeback for Hernandez, plus 145. It's an interesting fight because, like, my instinct is to obviously side with the guy who's got a bunch of UFC experience, who's like a fairly well-rounded fighter in Hernandez. And I kind of lean in that direction, but I also feel like, I don't know, man. Like, Carlos is like so hard. Like, you know what I get with Carlos? Like Brad Katona vibes. Like that's the where it's like, you know, Carlos, he's a pretty good fighter. He's a good scrambler. He's a good boxer, decent pace, but he has zero power. He's not a particularly dangerous submission grappler.
He doesn't have a high ceiling.
No, he has about as low a ceiling as you could get. Yes. You know, it's like Carlos has been, I think 3 of his 4 wins in the UFC have been by split. The guy just doesn't really have an ability to separate. And he's fighting a guy in Hyun-Sung Park. I still don't really know what to make of Park. He's a dangerous fighter, decent amount of power, decent submission grappler. I still have a tremendous amount of skepticism around, you know, how well Park's game is going to translate to the UFC. Like, knocking out Shannon Ross doesn't tell me anything, since a stiff breeze knocks out Shannon Ross.
Yeah.
But I do look at the fight and feel, even though Hernandez has the much more significant experience and obviously much better wins in his career, and honestly, he's probably as good, if not better, as a technician, he is kind of giving away the potential moment upside, the potential, you know, I don't want to say he's giving away grappling upside, but I feel like a lot of the moment and finishing upside is on the Park side here, and Park's also the younger fighter.
Even in the grappling, though, I don't even think he has like a significant advantage. Like, I think it's more neutered, if anything. Probably.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. And actually, what Paul just said in the chat, I agree with a lot. And the guys, don't go. Can we wait till limits open a little bit before we go and hammer this? But like, I actually really like it to go. Carlos is a tough cat to finish, man. You know, he's not the only guy. I believe the only 2 guys to sub him or to finish him were Nascimento and Tyra. And like, I don't think Park's in near that level. I feel like the goes the distance here should be in like the minus 220, 230 range, maybe even a tad higher than that. So like, that's kind of what I'm looking at. But yeah, in terms of the fight, I want to like Hernandez. He checks a lot of boxes, but I'm just done betting these like harmless fighters as small dogs. You know, it's why I faded Katona last night. I was, 2 years ago, I would have bet Brad Katona for multiple units, but there's no upside. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a great comparison, I think, to Katona. Like, Hernandez is a good generalist, but there's no wow factor, really. Like you said, there's no power, there's no big, why would I want to bet Carlos Hernandez, really? But then on the flip side with Park, I mean, I think he's got good power. I think in terms of volume, I think it's decent. And like I said, with the grappling, I think it probably cancels out. Like, I think if this price came in a little bit on the money line side, I would take the Park side, but I like your angle on the GTD as well. I just think, again, to your point, going to have the bigger moments on the feet. If anybody's going to find a finish, it probably is Park.
Like Carlos Hernandez is like they're trying. I'm not saying like the UFC is setting him up to lose, but he's the guy when they're building somebody and they're letting them get experience. They're like, we'll give him Carlos Hernandez. That's like a decent measuring stick.
Well, that's what I was just going to say to your point that you mentioned before the fight, like in the beginning of the breakdown, that they're trying to feed him road to UFC guys. I think because they're trying to get a road to UFC guy a win and propel them a little bit and show them that this feeding ground has like some meaning to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving on, we have a pretty interesting fight here, and again, giant chalk. There's a lot of squash matches on this card,
and that's what I was mentioning when you were gone. Like, I feel like there's a ton of chalk on this card, but I feel like a lot of them are justified. But I mean, we'll get into a lot of them.
Yeah, we got Denise Gomes. She is minus 550, taking on Elise Reed at plus 400. What do you think, Legs?
This is kind of one that I do think is justified. Again, I mean, like, what is there to say? Like, I don't think Elise is going to have any meaningful grappling success, and I think that's kind of where it comes down to. I mean, if this stays standing for 15, it's hard to not think Denise is going to have the bigger moments. I mean, I know she has some defense issues. I get that, but much bigger power. I think can land comparison of volume. So
I honestly like Reed here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like the line is where it is because the assumption that Reed is just an absolute fucking horrible grappler. But yeah, like Pepe said,
I think
sees
she
what
is,
Elise
though.
Reed takes down. She is, but like, dude, okay. Elise
Yeah.
Reed is a bad grappler. Don't get me wrong. And like,
Yes.
I've cashed betting grapplers against Elise Reed in the past, you know?
Right.
But Elise Reed also has a win against Corey McKenna. She has a win against Jasmine Jasdavicius. She has a win against Jessica Penne. Like, Denise Gomes is not a fucking grappler, man. Like, she will go for takedowns, but like, Denise Gomes got railed by Angela Hill in the grappling, you know? And like, Angie's like an okay grappler, but she's nothing. It's not her base. It's certainly not her specialty. You know, like Loma Lubunmi destroyed Denise Gomes on the ground. And like, there's now this assumption that Denise Gomes is going to come out here. Like, it took Loopy 5 takedowns to finally consolidate and destroy Elise Reed. If Denise Gomes goes for 5, 6, 7 takedowns and doesn't find a finish, she's going to suffer cardiac fucking arrest. You know, she does not have good cardio. And like on the feet, I like Denise more, obviously. Like, I think she's a more talented fighter. I think she hits a little harder, but I also think Reed's power is very underrated. Like, she low key cracks. She's hurt a bunch of women in the UFC. She's got a few knockouts on her record. She actually, believe it or not, has better distance striking metrics than Denise Gomes does for their time in the UFC so far, having fought a very, very similar level of competition. So, like, I look at it and I think Denise is a lot better than her. Like, don't get me wrong. I do, but I feel like Denise should be in, like, the minus 230, 240 range. You know, she is probably a little better on the feet just with her power, and she obviously has more grappling upside. But, like, I don't feel Denise Gomes is going to come out here and do a Sam Hughes to her, you know, or do a loopy to her. I just, that's not Denise's game. It's really not. And if they're striking, it's probably going to play pretty close, you know. I'd favor Denise. I think she has a bit more finishing equity, but like, we both know Denise is hittable. We both know she can be gassy. It's like she beat up Grandma Carolina, and now she's going to be minus like 600 against everybody she fights. I don't know. I'm probably going to take a tiny poke on Elise here. I feel like this is a little silly. Pepe's in the chat, but real ones remember me and Pepe cashing Elise Reed against Melissa Martinez. I feel like this is going to be a similar fight to that all over again here. Moving on, we got Connor Matthews taking on Yadier Delval. This is like such a weird fight. Because Delval is minus 400 and the comeback on Matthews is plus 300. And I actually remembered taping Del Valle when I was taping like Michael Aswell for Contender Series last year. And I obviously ran the tape back on him. And like, he's an okay fighter, you know, decent wrestler, decent jiu-jitsu, okay-ish striker. He's not someone I would ever profile as like a minus 400 in the UFC, you know? I don't think he's got a ton of power. I think his jiu-jitsu is okay, but not great. I think his wrestling is okay, but not great. Mm-hmm. So like, I saw the line and was pretty taken aback by it. But then you just got to remember he's fighting Connor Matthews. And, you know, Connor Matthews does not belong at this level or anywhere close to it. And it's unfortunate because he seems like a good dude. He fights really hard. Like, he will fight for your money. The unfortunate thing, he's just not good enough to win you your money, you know? Like, the guy, he's very, very hittable. He's very, very plotty. He likes to grapple, but his jiu-jitsu is not that good. His wrestling offensively and defensively is not that good. Like, I think Del Valle, the ideal outcome here is Del Valle getting a quick finish and us getting like a really like decent like fade spot against him, because I really just don't think he's all that good.
No.
But I just, if you're giving me a guy that can grapple and has decent cardio, it's really hard for me to get behind Connor Matthews at this level. I just don't think his skills are there or anywhere close to the UFC level. So, yeah, I mean, I think the price is probably fine. Like, if anything, maybe you wait and try to bet Connor live if Del Valle slows. But like, I think he should be fine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the line is definitely more an indictment of how bad Connor Matthews is than how good Del Valle is.
Which could almost be an argument, though, for betting Connor Matthews, right? You know, if it's overdoing that. Yeah.
Though watching his Contender Series fight, it was pretty impressive to me against that Montero guy.
He's tough. He's fucking tough.
He's tough. Yeah. Had good volume there. He has decent wrestling, has okay cardio. I think he's pretty hittable. So, I mean, that definitely, I think, could be his downside. Defensive wrestling, not the greatest either, but again, to your point, I don't think Matthews is really the one to test that. Yeah, I think it's probably a Del Val, like, honestly, ho-hum decision, I think. I think that'd be an interesting price, honestly, to look at instead of, like, fading a finish.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I actually think I actually like a lot of like over / goes the distance potentially on this card, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot from the totals I've looked at today. I feel like there's a lot that are lined pretty oddly. So we'll see what happens with it though. Moving on, we have another chick fight here, and it's an interesting one. We got Luana Santos. She's taking out Tainara Lisboa. If I'm not mistaken, both of us cashed against Luana Santos in her last fight. Is that correct?
I did not have Casey O'Neill, but congrats to you while you bring it up. No, I did not have Casey O'Neill.
Yeah, Casey O'Neill. That was a great bet.
Yes,
but
yes, it was great bet.
Current price here, Luana Santos is minus 140. The comeback on Lisboa plus 120. There's a part of me that wants to play the juice on Santos. I really, I bet Jessica Rose Clark against Lisboa in her debut. That did not work out. I am really still not sold on Tainara Lisboa as being anything other than just like a woman with very good physicality for this level. That seems to be like what she's got, and that's it. But like watching her last fight with Ravina Oliveira and seeing her get controlled for like 5 minutes, for like a round in that fight is pretty horrible. Like Oliveira is not a good fighter, and she had a tremendous amount of success in that fight. Even watching the Jessie Jess fight, like Jessie Jess looked like career worst, and she had, she was competitive in the fight. I guess the biggest concern for me, and so like with all that said, I think Luana has pretty big grappling upside if she gets on top here. I'm pretty sure she's the much better grappler in this fight. My biggest concern is just I don't really like how Luana goes for the grappling. It's like all judo shit. And if she can't get her down, Luana's striking is terrible, man. I know her metrics are decent, but like she was not really outpacing Stephanie Egger that much. And we all know Stephanie Egger is like one of the worst, strikers in the division to ever do it. Obviously, Casey O'Neill, who we have famously for years talked about how bad her striking is, beat the shit out of Luana on the feet in their fight. So yeah, I'm torn because if Luana had a more processed grappling game that was more wrestling reliant, I'd be like really, really into a bet on her here because I do think if she gets on top of Lisboa, she's going to wreck her and potentially finish her. I just don't think those takedowns are at all reliant at this level. They may work against Lisboa because I don't think Lisboa is particularly high level, but I don't really want to trust a judo girl who like needs her judo to work to win the fight to really, to at juice. Like when it was like pick'em, I was like, I can maybe get there. And I can see the path for Luana looking like a big favorite, but I just feel like if she doesn't get that game going, I'm going to feel really fucking bad about like making this bet. So I'm probably going to pass unless the line comes in, but I do tend to lean to the Luana side. I think she has a bit more upside here. What do you think?
So this is one of the last fights that I did tape, and I'm kind of just leaning the other side. Not that I'm interested in a bet where the current number is. If it blew out a bit, maybe I would. Just to your point at the end there, really, if Santos can't get the takedowns, and again, all judo reliant, really, she's doesn't have the best striking, and I think Lisboa hits really hard, super physical, and in terms of the grappling, I think I'm not going to say Lisboa can hold her own because I think she definitely can be held down. Obviously, she was held down by that bum in her last fight, but like how Santos goes for the grappling, I think Lisboa has some intuition there. Like, you see in someone for fights, she goes for judo throws herself, like she has some idea of what's going on. So like, to me, it's just kind of a pick 'em fight, really. Like, again, I don't have really a strong opinion on it. And I think that's probably why I should just stay off of it. And that's why I'm, again, only would look at
I do have a strong opinion on it. It's just like, I'm not I don't want to say sure, but I have like a very high confidence interval that like if Santos can get the top position, she's going to do whatever she wants to her there. I just don't have, that much confidence that she can get there.
See, that's the interesting part to Lisboa. Like, has decent-ish takedown defense, but once she's grounded, it's like she's totally helpless.
Yeah, I totally agree. Am I chopping again, by the way, when you're looking at me?
A little bit.
Like a little, as it, like when you say a little, are you being like very kind about it? And
Yeah, I am being very kind about it.
yeah. Don't be kind. Be brutally honest
Okay.
with me.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Are you
probably pivot off the internet again when I throw it back to you for this next
okay?
fight.
Okay.
We got Jared Gordon. Is my sound coming through okay though?
Yeah, sounds coming through
Okay, cool.
perfectly fine.
We got Jared Gordon taking on Thiago Moises. Current price, Moises minus 112. The comeback on Gordon is minus 108. Legs, what do you think here?
So another one that I don't have like a super strong opinion, but I kind of lean the Gordon side. Like outside of age, like Jared Gordon historically can keep a high pace, good volume. I don't know. To me overall, like I feel like, I mean, like I get the credence to drawing a blank here real quick here. Sorry, my bad. Did not have the stuff here. Sorry about that. Moises. Sorry about that. Did not have the fights up next to me. But yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, without it's another fight where I just don't think if Moises doesn't get the takedowns, like on the feet. I mean, his striking's not that great. Like to me, Gordon can, like I said, can keep a high pace, has historically good cardio, and I could see the credence to Moises getting the takedowns. Like Gordon has been held down in the past by like guys like Joe Selecki, Grant Dawson, obviously guys much more punishing top control, but Moises could have his moments. I lean to the Gordon side though, really, just not a super strong take.
Yeah, I feel I do. I don't even know if I want to call it a strong take. Like I bet Moises large against Ogden, and I remember us recapping that fight, and like my basic takeaway from it was, yeah, I mean the two things that I thought favored him the most, the calf kicks and top time upside, are what ultimately won him that fight. But I also felt like he got a very, very fortunate run of play to win that fight. Like Ogden was easily winning on the feet, and Ogden kind of just, baited his way into bottom position, if we're being honest, to win that fight. And I said at the time, and I still feel this way, I would never bet Thiago Moises again. And that's where I am with Thiago Moises, dude. The guy is just, he doesn't seem like he's a real fighter anymore, honestly. Like that's what it seems like. And I actually think on paper, this is a pretty good fight for Jared Gordon, because Jared Gordon is going to bring a lot of volume. It's the kind of fight where he doesn't need to really worry all that much about, the grappling or the power from Moises that's coming back at him here.
Mm-hmm.
But I do worry a bit about the grappling. Joe Selecki had a fair amount of grappling success against Gordon. Obviously, Grant Dawson did. I will say, Matt said, how did I do last night? I won 0.3 units. I will say, like, Grant Dawson's obviously a much better grappler than Thiago Moises, both as a wrestler and in terms of jiu-jitsu. But it does worry me a bit, especially, and Jared's age worries me a bit. I do feel like on the feet, Jared's really going to outpace him pretty badly here. I really, really think he will. He's got much better metrics. We've seen this guy land 145 significant strikes against Nasrat Haqparast, whereas, Thiago Moises is struggling to land 40 strikes against, fairly low-level competition.
Yeah.
So,
in a way, I feel like this is like the Selecki fight. Not to like...
It's similar in some respects. I think what worries me about Gordon is I do think Moises is a lot more likely to finish this fight. I have a hard time picturing Gordon finishing Moises, whereas Moises may be consolidating back time and subbing him. I could see happening. And
I think it's pretty low percentage, though. I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. That is probably like the most likely like finish in the fight, but I think that is still pretty low percentage.
But I could also picture Moises knocking him out, which I think is also pretty low percentage.
Okay.
But it's like I don't really see much finishing upside at all for Jared Gordon, like at all. So I think there's a lot more for Moises, which complicates things. But I agree with you. I just feel like Moises at this point is what he is. The guy is not going to land more than 30 to 50 significant strikes over the course of a fight. And Jared Gordon has shown us a bit the ability to land, 100 to 140 significant strikes in a fight. So I do kind of think Gordon's got to be the favorite here. He deserves to be the side, but I have not made a decision if I'm going to bet him. Like the fact that he's 36 and the fact that he's giving up an edge in finishing equity makes me really, really nervous. And like to Pepe's point here, this also scares me. Like it would be by far the worst loss of Moises' career. If the guy has mostly only lost to like really good fighters, and I like Jared, but like, Jared's a pretty limited fighter. That is what he is.
Classic lunch pail guy.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So yeah. I haven't decided yet. I lean the Gordon side, but I am being a bit wary of it, to be honest.
Same.
Moving on, though, we got Mel Costa taking on Julian Arosa. Current price on Costa, minus 205. The comeback on Arosa, plus 175. What are your thoughts here, Legs?
Yeah, I think this is another, chalky favorite that I think the line's probably, like, fine-ish. Like, to me, like, I don't know about you, but watching that last fight against Darren Elkins, I thought, like, 2.5 minutes in, Arosa looked pretty gassed. His cardio did not look good. Obviously he did find the finisher. Elkins was, walking punching bag, really a great fight for him there. But like Elkins landed his own shots there too as well. To me, I think Costa, like, it's a great fight for him. On the feet, can land those kicks at will, at range. And in terms of the grappling, I think he's the much better grappler here.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. With Costa, you think he's a better grappler, you said?
I think so. I think he can stay safe.
I actually bet Arosa before this podcast. Yeah. I just feel like, when you're considering whether or not to bet Arosa, the big question you always have is how likely he is to get knocked out, right? That's generally the way this goes. And I don't really think Costa is all that likely to knock Arosa out. He does have better striking metrics, and he has done traditionally a pretty good job of like staying on the outside and getting his kind of like little outside kicking game going. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Come on.
I really shouldn't have said that. He has his little outside kicking game, his little point striking thing. But Arosa is a really hard guy to point strike with. He always has been because he pressures very, very hard. And he throws a lot of kicks. He throws a lot of shots to the body. And so I don't think it's going to be that effective for Costa. And, I think of the two, I think Arosa is the much more likely guy to finish the fight. I think he is the much more likely of the two to have a big moment in this fight. So I shouldn't even say I think. He has beaten the better level of competition here. He is the more experienced fighter. I think he is the better scrambler of the two, and I think he's the much more likely fighter to win by submission. So could Costa point his way like via like grappling and outstriking to a decision? Yes. I just think there's a lot more upside on Arosa. I guess what I will say is if I wanted to get involved with Costa, I think one of the more interesting ways to do it is kind of, bet on his KO. No one thinks he's going to be able to KO Arosa because the guy doesn't have that much power.
Yeah.
But, that would be the way to do it, in my opinion. But I like Arosa here. Not passionate. I think it's a very competitive fight. And I think I'd even favor Costa in a decision if it goes that far. I just feel like Arosa is much more likely to finish the fight of the two. And like that's enough for me to take the shot at like plus 180.
So then, I guess not to hate on the money line shot, but like probably get a decent no scorecards then, right? On Arosa, if you think he's more likely to finish.
Do you think so? You think it's going to be like a plus no scorecards on Arosa? I guess it could be. It would be very hard to get to like, Arosa being this price and not being and being more favored to win by finish. But that's it. I actually wouldn't mind the Arosa no scorecards,
Yeah, like maybe I know it might chop the money line a little bit, like maybe a plus 140.
Although the other side of that is though, most of the times Arosa loses, it's by a first round knockout,
Yeah, but like to your point though, that's what you don't think is going to happen in this kind of a fight. You don't think Costa has that knockout power, so.
I think he can knock out Julian Arosa. I just think he's a lot less likely to knock out Julian Arosa than like most of the guys that have fought Julian Arosa previously, or who have knocked him out previously.
That's fair.
But I'm on Arosa small. And now we get into the thick of things. I actually like the dog in this next matchup a decent amount. Not a decent amount, but I like him. We have Nursultan Rusev. He's taking on Dustin Stolzfus. Current price on Ruzi.
Real quick, did you miss a fight there, John? Unless they have him out of order on.
Oh, I did miss one. You're right. We'll go back to that. We got Matheus Camilo taking on Gabriel Green. This is an interesting one because I was almost 100% positive I would bet Green. Even after I finished Camilo's tape, I was almost 100% positive I would bet Green. Look, Camilo, very, very young, trains at Extreme Couture full-time. You know, the guy's obviously good athlete, decent boxer, good shot selection. He's certainly improving. You know, he's training with the right people. But I also think there's pretty big issues with the game of Matheus Camilo. He's very hittable. I think his volume can be questionable at times. And I think his cardio, to me, has looked suspect at times as well. And he's taken on a veteran in Gabriel Green who, you know, meat and potatoes guy. Decent striker, decent volume, bit hittable, maybe a bit on the chinny side. You know, not much of a grappling threat. But, you know, Green's fought competitively with some pretty good fighters. And my instinct is, as an underdog that Gabriel Green is, at plus 145, I would be interested in fading, you know, the young kid who really hasn't faced anybody at this level yet. And you know me, Lags, I'm not a narrative guy, but like I'm looking through Gabriel Green's Twitter. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't fought in 2 years. And this is a dude who, if you scroll back a year or two on his Twitter, all he did was post himself in the gym training. And I'm going through his Twitter, and like the last year, all it is him talking about God, which like no disrespect for me. I totally respect, you know, people being like Christian and married to God. But it's like he's giving. It seems like he's training to be a pastor right now. It doesn't seem like he's really training fights.
Well, I was gonna say he has his own, like I don't know what you want to call it, his own. Yeah, it's like the gifted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yep. He's like his life focus is not on fighting. Like definitively is not on fighting. And that's a pretty concerning for me, especially he's coming off a brutal KO and he's taking on this kid who all he's doing is fighting. This guy's like training with like absolute killers at Extreme Couture every day. And like I know there's some issues in Camilo's tape that I don't like, but he's 24 and I think he's going to be getting better every fight. Whereas Gabe Green's 31 and seems to have just completely and he just had a kid last year too. He's 31 and seems like MMA seems to be an afterthought for him. Now, maybe I'll look like a fool when this fight goes down and Green beats his ass and knocks him out. But the truth is, I think this kid's going to get better because I actually do think he's a pretty good boxer who's pretty talented. He's just very, very green. No pun intended. But the stuff I've seen from Green, like the 2-year layoff, coming off a brutal knockout, being chinny to begin with, going back down to 155, and now seemingly not really being checked in for MMA anymore. I am very happy to pass this fight. What do you think?
And the word I was looking for was ministry. The gifted
ministry.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Like he's lit. Yes. It is very clear that he is like near the end of his MMA career to me.
And I think the perfect comparison to Gabe Green is he's the 155-pound CJ Vergara. He's your lunch pail type fighter. He's going to come high volume. He's better
than CJ Vergara.
He is. High volume, though, good cardio. You know, he's much more power than CJ Vergara, and that's really the big thing. But, again, another guy who doesn't really move his head. Walking punching bag. He's there to get off, again, good strikes. And I think that's really what they're doing here, looking to feed a young, hungry prospect like what they do to CJ Vergara. I think that's what they're going to do here again to Gabe Green. I mean, look at the guys that he's been fighting, all these young up-and-coming prospects who's getting wins over him, outside of D-Rod. But, yeah, I mean, to your point with Camilo, definitely pretty green, striking defense, not that great, but guy's got solid power himself. I think he could find the chin in Green here, probably knock him out. I could definitely see this just going to a decision where he just lands the bigger shots as well.
Yeah, I could see that as well. He also hits the body a lot, Camilo does, which, you know, I like. But we move on. Rusev, Stolzfus, where I left off. Rusev minus 280, the comeback on Stolzfus plus 240. Obviously, with Nursultan, you know what the danger is. Dude's huge. He's long. He hits hard. He's going to come out swinging for the fences early. And if he finds that chin, he will put you away. Dustin Stolzfus, not as huge. Can be a bit fragile. He could get knocked out here very, very easily by Nursultan. But I actually think in the aggregate, he's the better fighter. I think he's the more sound technician on the feet. I think he's a much better grappler than Rusev is. Now, do I favor him? No, because I think Rusev has gigantic margin for error here. You know, Rusev can finish this fight at any time, whereas Stolzfus probably wants to get this down and grind him out if he can. And am I confident he can do that? No, not necessarily. Well, yes, I am confident if he gets on top of Rusev, he can hold him down and potentially submit him in this fight. I do think it's going to be absolute hell for him early in the fight and potentially even worth looking for a live shot. But I also think Stoltz is a bit underrated. Like, he's hung in there with some big hitters before. Like, I know he got killed by a spinning elbow by Bruno, but he was whooping Bruno Ferreira's ass before he got finished in that fight. He absolutely dominated Puna. You know, obviously
was dominating GM3 too.
Yeah, he's not a bad fighter. The biggest issue that Dustin Stoltzfus has is he's just not a very good athlete. He's kind of slow and he's not a great athlete, but he's well-rounded. He's a decent striker. He's a pretty good grappler. And conversely, it's like Nursultan's biggest advantage is he is a very good athlete who's very big, but he's not a very good fighter, you know?
Yeah.
And Glenn Bot saying, are the under solid? That probably, but also like it's the kind of thing if like Dustin's having his game going, you could just see him have a body triangle on Rusev for like 15 minutes, you know? But I look at it and I feel like I favor Rusev just because he's so dangerous and like the KO equity is so high, you kind of have to. But at the same time, I feel like the upside for Stoltzfus at under 30% implied is tremendous here. Like, you know, he could look like a big favorite in this fight, but pretty easily, you know? So, yeah, I'm going to probably bet Dustin Stoltzfus a plus 240. You know, if he dies, he dies, but I think he's got a lot of grappling. And frankly, I think he's got some equity to knock him out on the feet, too, if I'm being honest. What do you think, Lags?
Well, to Glenbot's point on the under, because I didn't actually see the price and where it was at either. So it's under 1.5 rounds, and it's like a pick 'em to the under. I honestly think that's mostly Rusev correlated. Like, I think Stoltzfus, if he's finding a finish, it's 2-3.
Yeah, Rusev? Oh, you mean Stoltzfus?
If Stoltzfus finds a finish, it's going to be in 2-3. If Rusev finds a finish, it's going to be under 1.5 rounds. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. I think I would rather just take shots on Stoltzfus, like late round shots here. Because personally, I do acknowledge the early danger that is Rusev. To your point, much faster, much more athletic. Like, there is a real present danger here with Rusev knocking him out early. So I think I'm always going to just maybe look and see what late, you know, Stoltzfus props look like. Round 2, round 3.
Moving on, we got a banger here. We got Sadiq Yousef taking on Myron Santos. Current price, Santos minus 130. The comeback on Yousef is plus 110. What do you think, Lags?
I don't know if I want to get super involved here because I do think it's a decent step up in competition, though, against Yousef. But I like the Santos side here just because I don't think Yousef is likely to get the grappling going. And on the feet, I think Santos probably is the harder hitter of the two, though both of these guys leave a ton of openings on the feet. And I think that's kind of why I'm more inclined to stay off the Santos side. What kind of interests me, though, is the under 2.5 rounds also at like plus 190. Like, both of these guys, like I mentioned, leave openings in the striking. And I mean, if Yousef could get some grappling going, maybe could find a finish there. But yeah, I think big plus money under, and I lean the Santos side as well.
I agree. The under is bizarre. I do not understand it at all. Because like I feel Santos is being favored largely because of Yousef's durability issues, right?
I would agree.
Yeah. So, and Yousef's not a light hitter himself.
No.
I haven't decided if I'll make a bet. I don't like betting against this kind of a step up in competition, and it is a pretty precipitous step up for Santos here. I mean, Yousef would be a pretty large favorite against Francis Marshall, in my opinion. So I do think it's, you know, it's not as clear, just as clear as, you know, Yousef's got a bad chin, therefore he's an underdog. But I do think Santos is pretty good. I know he looked really bad against Marshall. I bet Marshall. That fight was heartbreaking. But I think Santos is a pretty nasty counter boxer. You know, really fast hands, good power, really, really durable. He's probably not as diverse a technical striker as Sadiq Yousef at this juncture in their careers, but I don't know. I give him a lot more finishing equity in this fight. I give him a bit more moment equity. To your point, I don't know. Look, Yousef, I think going the grappling route, that's probably the path of least resistance for him here. And I think if he's able to get Santos down, he could have big success with it. Like, I actually think Yousef, if he gets the top position, is a pretty good grappler. So I think he would be wise to take that path. But he doesn't do it often, and Santos seems to have improved his takedown defense like a fair amount. So I don't know. I feel like Yousef is honestly arguably on the way out of the UFC here. I don't think he's going to be here very much longer. He doesn't seem all that checked in. He's pretty inactive at this point, obviously pretty fragile, and Santos is super young and improving. I can see why one would want to bet Yousef. I do think he probably has more skills at this point. He's obviously fought better guys, but I do think their trajectories are on different paths here. And I do think, the danger Santos presents is inherently bad for Sadiq. So I lean the Santos side. I probably will not bet it. I don't really want to take the risk of betting it. And then Yousef just gives him like a nasty vet lesson and beats him up, which I could honestly picture happening in this fight. But I have no, honestly, it's going to be really hard for me to do business with Sadiq again, after what's happened in his last few fights. So, that's that. Moving on, we have a funny fight in the main event. Paul Craig, Rodolfo Belato. Current price, Belato minus 500. The comeback on Craig, plus 375. I mean, I think Belato should murder him. I don't have a lot to say on the fight. I mean, maybe Paul Craig can do a Paul Craig miracle and snatch up some miracle triangle from Belato. But short of that, I don't think he has anything for Belato. He's just not a heavy enough hitter on the feet. And even his volume, Belato will match it. He'll walk forward and throw power shots. Durability edge is gigantic. Power edge is gigantic. Cardio edge, honestly, my favorite Belato too. I think he should be fine.
I would agree.
I honestly, and we're probably not going to get them. I was going to say maybe if we get decent Belato 1-2 numbers, something plus.
Well, the over under 1.5 rounds is pick 'em.
That's interesting. I'm kind of surprised at that. I think Belato's going to knock him out pretty quickly, to be honest. But that's my gut instinct anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm assuming you were saying plus 300 there on a KO one.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe a plus 300, plus 500 as a 1-2 split.
I don't know about 5, but yeah.
I'm saying round 2, plus
1-2. Got you. Yeah, no, I totally I like that approach because I think the under again pick 'em I think is a solid price as well. I think Belato finishes him early.
Yeah,
yep.
Not
much to say completely.
On it. and speaking of not much to say, we got the main event. We got Gilbert Burns, Michael Morales. Current price Morales minus 700, Burns plus 500. It does feel pretty disrespectful to me. Michael Morales, in theory, taking a step up in competition, right. And Morales' grappling is still, I think, one of the biggest question marks in his game. Would it shock me if Burns were to maybe get on top of him and submit him? No. But I also think it's pretty clear at this point that Burns looks about as washed gets. Sean Brady's a good fighter, but the non-compete he showed against Brady, I found pretty disappointing. Brady's very good, but he was just bullying Burns in all aspects of MMA in that fight. And do I think Morales will out-grapple him? No, but Morales is bigger. He's more explosive. He's got better card. Lando's saying Burns is not washed. I would love to see Gilbert Burns win. I'm not betting Michael Morales, but I have not seen. But Gilbert Burns has not looked good to me in quite a long period of time. I guess the best thing you could say about him is he did almost beat the current champion.
JDM. Yeah. No, he looked decent against JDM, but I mean the issue with Burns, sorry to cut you off a little bit there. The issue with Burns really is, he's always had, pretty sketchy cardio, a sketchy chin.
And Morales is just all he is hardware. It's pure athlete with insane hardware, It's
similar to the co-main event in that sense. The huge favorite has huge hardware advantages.
Yeah.
Huge finishing upside.
I do think the line is probably a bit on the extreme side. Burns, jiu-jitsu, and grappling is good enough that, it's probably a silly number. But at the same time, I just don't – it's not that I can't picture it. I just feel like Burns' scope for finishing this fight is very, very early. And if he doesn't get it done then, he's probably just going to get run over and eventually finished. To be honest, if we're talking about totals, I kind of like the under here. The current price, the over 3.5 is minus 170 and the under is plus 140. If Morales is actually minus 700, you have to imagine he's knocking him out at a pretty good clip here. And it seems like that's what the line is saying. That's what the UFC is trying to set up here pretty evidently to me. Yeah, I would love Gilbert to win, but like I don't really think he can compete in the striking in this day and age. I do think he could get some early takedowns and maybe get to a dominant position early. So like maybe you look at some like tiny pokes on like Gil sub 1, sub 2 stuff, but ultimately, I think, again, trajectories are just so different here. Morales is getting better. He's a freak athlete with freak durability and freak power. And Gilbert Burns was, at one point, one of the best fighters in the division, but he's over 40 with bad cardio and kind of chinny. And, I mean, the UFC's putting him out to pasture here. And I think that Michael Morales is going to take care of that and do it. What do you think?
Completely agree. And completely agree on the undertake as well. And I think, honestly, maybe even depending on what the lines come out to, I think pivoting, you're just looking for the KO, as well as the under, obviously. But instead of just going that, instead of the inside of the distance, just depending on how they have those priced out, I just don't think it's super high likely that Morales subs Burns.
No.
So
Brady didn't sub him. Morales isn't going to sub him,
Yeah. So.
But yeah, the other thing wanted to mention real quick. We did not have a winner for the parlay contest last week. We will run it. Do we want to run it for the next pay-per-view, or should we run it again until someone wins it?
I wouldn't mind running it this week, obviously, because we didn't have anybody win it last week. But the thing is, though, it's just kind of a lackluster card. Like, I'd love to, because the next pay-per-view is not for another month. UFC
so let's run it this week then. We'll run it this week. We'll run it this week. We'll run it. Lags will tweet out the info. We'll run it back this week. You guys can throw some juice parlays together. Someone will hit their parlay. So that'll be good. The other thing is, dude, I told my wife this week, she was like, I was like, man, like, I really want like my office to look like a professional podcast setup. She's like, can I design it? I was like, yeah. So she's going to redo my office in the back wall here. So it's going to look a little bit less, but I'm going to have to get it a lot less choppy than what happened today. My volume was good though for the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it was fine. I know. Okay, strange turn of events where I had mostly technical free difficulties, and John is the one over there.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck is going on here? And I paid like a premium for like great internet,
Hey, Chad might have cursed you,
Dude, Chad might have cursed me.
That Canada curse.
That Canadian internet is dog shit.
Is it really?
Yeah, but it was great hanging out with Chad though. Actually, it was a lot of fun.
I bet, dude.
It was a blast. We drank. They had some.
And the fights were great too.
Yeah, the fights were good. The fights were excellent. They had some proper 12 cocktails, and me and Chad kept going back to the bar after every fight or two and buying one beer and one cocktail. I think we did that 4 times in about 5 fights. It was, and then it was like about 110 degrees in the arena, or so it felt like, and we were in dire shape at like.
I was say you're in Saudi Arabia there.
Dude, we didn't get back till 3 a.m. to his apartment, and then I had to leave at 6 a.m. to catch my flight to go to my in-laws for Mother's Day. It was a rough day. That's all I'm going to say. And after we get off this, I'm going to go to sleep as soon as my kids are in bed.
Come on, John.
But anyway, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. I'll post plays throughout the week as I put them up.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll be back next week. So I think, do we have a break after this week?
I don't believe.
Or is it Blanchfield Barber?
No, we do. No, you're right. No, we do have Blanchfield Barber, but it is in 2 weeks.
Bro, they couldn't give us like a better card than this for like a week before a break. That's kind of crazy.
Well, you know what's kind of crazy? I'm looking at that card in 2 weeks. That card's a banger.
It is. Wait, hold on. So they're skipping. So they're doing a card Memorial Day weekend, and
yes.
Why
no,
wouldn't
Memorial,
they
No, wait. No, Memorial Day is 26th, John.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. More sense. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. Drop a like, subscribe. Lags will have the parlay contest back out this week, and hopefully we can get it. Take it easy, folks. Peace.